Hey there, welcome into the room. I am so glad you're here with me. And we are back together again this week, you and I, for having some conversations around doing the things that matter. If we haven't met before, let me introduce myself. My name is Teresa McCloy, and I am your host each and every week here on the podcast as we have some engaging conversations with guests and also my own thoughts about how we do this thing of living from rest, not rush. If you're listening and you're kind of tired of the daily grind, the constant rush and the hustle, and you're really craving a more settled life that's meaningful and resonates with your mind and your body and your soul, then you're in the right place. I've got your back and I'm with you on the journey. As a believer, as an entrepreneur, and as a recovering workaholic, I get you and how crazy the brain can get sometimes. I want to bring you practical tools, inspiring stories, and even some experts that have insight into this everyday, ordinary life. Help us to stay on the path and really give us some of the things that we can think about and talk about, you and I together, on what truly matters. In fact, I want to do this together because community matters as we live from rest, not rush. So thanks for being with me today and being on the path as we do it together. Let's get started with this week's conversation. So this week, I just want to share a little bit with you of what's been going on in my life. It's been a week that's been rich and full. Notice I did not say busy because I really try to avoid that word when I can. So I don't want to say that it's been busy because I have chosen to live the life that I'm living. And all the things that have been on my calendar this last week were things that I chose to be there. And they were rich and they were full and they were good. And so this past week, I actually was traveling quite a bit. I travel in my business to speak, lead retreats and workshops and keynotes and trainings and do different things. And it just so happened this past week, I was back to back. I did a retreat for my local church that I'm a part of, and we took their core leadership team on retreat, and I was so privileged and honored to get to lead that and to just hold some space with them and encourage them as they did some rest and renew. And so that was super fun. I did that for a couple of days, and then I actually hopped on a plane and flew down to Florida and was with a brand new community that I was invited to speak, and I actually got to be the closing keynote for that community. And it was so good and so fun. It was a group of entrepreneurs that are a part of a community with Terry Weaver, and he runs a community called The Thing, has a couple events a year and different things. But it was a space I had not been in, didn't know Terry all that well, but it was great to be at his event. But one of the things I noticed as I was speaking and retreating with some amazing entrepreneurs and leaders is that we can get really siloed into our own little circles. And it's something I've really been working on this year is what is open for me? Do I approach relationships with open hands or with closed hands? And I have relationships here in my local community. I have many, many relationships that are online. I've been a part of a couple of masterminds, one for quite a long time, that is some people I do life with. And I've been in another mastermind for a shorter period of time that's really more that business driver type mastermind. So I have those relationships. But I'm going to be really transparent with you as you're listening in. Some of this process for me goes back to losing one of my really good friends last year. And she would be in that, circle of three that I have of friendships. And when I lost her, I realized as I was walking through kind of um, the tool that I use in the work that I do called a real life view. And as I was walking through and looking at this area of my life of people and relationships, I realized I needed to be much more open handed, that I had become a little bit siloed in deep relationships. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're like me, you go through periods of time where, you're not needing necessarily new friendships. But I really feel like I have walked in this year kind of more open handed and looking for those. And part of that has been reaching out into new communities, such as I did was speaking at Terry's event, this event that I just went to. Now, that particular community is really entrepreneurs and leaders and creatives. It's a great community, but I've been looking in other places too. So when I think about developing new friendships, new people in my life, this is something that I think we don't pay enough attention to. It can be really easy now that we're in this work from home mindset that we think of all the conveniences of working from home, and all of those are great and wonderful. But we forget that when we're doing that, we possibly could be siloing ourselves away from other opportunities. And you may be listening and be one of those people that is working from home or has the ability to work from home some, or you're an entrepreneur and you're really running your own business as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever kind of hat that you put on. And you may feel that loneliness. Loneliness is one of the top things in the mental health space right now. People feel lonely. We don't have the water cooler conversations that we used to have. We don't have the stop in, lean at the door type of conversations. Now, I know if you're like me, sometimes that got annoying when you were working in a workspace and trying to get something done in an office space. But we just have a different culture now in how we work. So this people block that I often talk about in the content that we have here at the Real Life Process, this people block is so, so important. And when I was speaking at this conference, actually, and closing out kind of the time on Sunday afternoon, and the host came back up on the platform and he said, share one of your takeaways. One of the women in the audience raised her hand and said, I need more people blocks and more present blocks, which is the self-care, soul care piece. And maybe for you, that really resonates. Of when I look at 2024, I want to open my hands a little bit more to people blocks. I want to have more pre-decided time on my calendar for relationships that matter. As I was at this event in Florida, I went very much aware that one or two connections in my business could make the difference. And you never know what one connection might lead to. And while I was there, I had a couple of great connections that I'm looking forward to following up with in the next few weeks and the next few months and seeing where those relationships grow. I found some wonderful people that I want to bring on the podcast so that you can hear from them and the work that they're doing. I had a conversation with one of the people there about coming to speak at his event. So I went knowing that I was taking a risk, putting myself in a new community, in a new space, but that I needed to open my hands and risk some new relationships, some new people in my life. And I will have to take the responsibility to nurture those, to respond back, to build some space into my calendar for some of those new relationships. Now, I have no idea of knowing if those will become deep and important friendships. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they'll just be business relationships, and that's fine. And this is one of the ways I actually look at these people blocks that are on your calendar. And that we've done several episodes about this and talked about this. You might want to go back and look for some of those. But let me just briefly walk through kind of how I look at this idea of people blocks and making time for people and having intentional things. First of all, is your family. Where are they going to be on your calendar? Many of you might be thinking, as you're listening in, you might be already thinking and planning for 2024. So who's going to be on your calendar from your family? What might be shifting and changing in your immediate family? The other one we look at is friends. I mean, that's the one I'm talking about right now, is people that are life-giving, valuable relationship in this season of my life. And then work relationships. Reason I went out of the box a little bit and put myself in that space, and as I often do when I'm speaking, is looking for those mutual life-giving energy and encouragement through partnership and insight and common work. And, that may be something that you're looking for. Who does work like I do? Who could be encouraging in the work that I do? Do I need to be around people? Am I feeling siloed and lonely? Do I need to get outside of some of that systems that I've built in, that I just have this little group of friends? Community is another one that I've really leaned back into in the last year or so, in my local church, in some volunteer things that I'm doing. I just wanted to get more connected in some places. And then one of the ones that is one of the ones that I lean into is long-term friendships. Who are people that you might think of right now that you know from college or from other work relationships, or lived down the block from you when you were a kid or whatever, that you're like, man, I'd love to catch up with them. Reminds me, just back in August, my husband Dale and I were traveling, and I actually reconnected with a high school friend who I had not seen him in years. He was actually 4 or 5 years older than me in high school, but it was so great to just catch up and meet his wife and him to meet Dale. And we just had a great time of dinner together. And yeah, we may run across each other again, we may not, but it was so life-giving because we had some shared history that we could refer back to. So this past week just really made me think about this, as you might be considering too, as you look at 2024, like, what are the life-giving relationships that I want? Do I have some of these places with family and friends and work relationships? Is there one that stands out to you of the one you want to work on? For me this year, it has been friendships and work relationships. And I just keep every 90 days or so, when I'm kind of reviewing and getting up on the balcony, I'm kind of looking in those spaces for what. And I enjoyed this trip and some of the things that I'm going to be following up on. So as you're listening, maybe that's coming up for you as well of, gosh, I've got a couple of categories where I just want to be open. I just want to see, as a believer, I think that God has spaces and places he opens up if we're aware and we bring top of mind awareness and really say, this matters to me. And I want to do what matters. And doing what matters for you in 2024 may be opening up to some of these, where do I need some more or deeper or intentional relationships with people around these spaces? I know we're coming into the holiday season. We're a couple weeks here before Thanksgiving and Christmas. And for many of us, we spend quite a bit of time with family. We might even reconnect with some friends. I also know the reality is the holiday season can be difficult as well. And you may be listening and thinking, I'm not going to be with family or friends during the holidays. So maybe it's a very, very intentional current reality that you want to reach out and just pre-decide how you're going to relationally connect with some people through the holiday season. That may be a part of what you want to do around these connections and these people spaces. But I just wanted to share with you kind of what's going on for me and what it's been for me in the last few weeks. Just as I've gone outside the box, and maybe it will encourage you to say, how do I want to go outside the box? What area do I want to expand and really name what you're looking for and be intentional in relationships? I am all about doing life in community. If you've listened to the podcast for very long at all, you've heard me talk about that over and over again. I think community matters. And so I always want to build great communities and healthy communities and be connected to great and healthy communities. That being said, I want to invite you to something that you could take action on in 2024. In an online space, we are forming and building some new community on a new platform in a new place with people who want to do life differently. All the things that we talk about here on the podcast. It'll be called the RealLife Process Community. And if you want to be one of the first ones to know about that, when we launch it in the middle of January, you can go to the reallifeprocess.com/join. Just put in your email and we will make sure that we let you know. If you're already on our list, go ahead and re-sign up at that little thereallifeprocess.com/join, even if you get our newsletters and all of those things, so that we can very intentionally invite you to this new place where you can hang out and really be involved in a community with lots of great resources, lots of free connection spaces. Maybe you'll find that person there that will be your person, that will be someone in the same business that you're in, an entrepreneur that's there, a coach that's there, someone that is really diving into some of the spiritual formation work that we do. We are so excited about the RealLife Process community and how it's moving forward as we support business owners, as we support coaches who are building businesses, as we support people that are doing life differently through the lens of some of the faith and spiritual work that they're doing. All are welcome to this new place that we're going to create. But we want to make sure you know about it and then we tell you about it. So the reallifeprocess.com/join. Remember, we spell real life with one L. So RealLife, reallifeprocess.com, the reallifeprocess.com/join. We'll have the link in the show notes. If you're on your phone or your favorite app, or you're listening, or you're connecting with us through YouTube on our channel, You can find us pretty easily and just put that /join. And we will be more than thrilled to let you know when that community opens up and you can join us there. So that's it for today. Thank you for listening in and joining me as I just shared my thoughts about this connection to people and reminding myself and hopefully reminding you as we journey together about people matter. And it is, when I have shared now for 1,920 some days on Facebook, social media platform, an extraordinary moment every day. And I go back and I look at those pictures when I do this keynote speaking. I often show a picture at the end of it with all of these pictures that I've taken. I would say 95% of them have a picture of a person. A lot of them are also of my farm here in Southern Illinois, but a lot of them are a picture of a person, because deep personal connections like I have with you as you listen to this podcast are so important to me. So remember that every ordinary day has an extraordinary moment. You just have to look for them. And they are possibly an extraordinary moment that is around a deep and personal connection that you have with a person. And we want to connect with you. So keep listening and we'll do this journey together. And we'll be back next week with more of the Doing What Matters podcast. See you then.